Mr. P, also known as Mr. Plum. I'm just kidding, it is Mr. Potato. So in today's video, we are going to be going over some Piggy things that you need to know, and we're going to be breaking down the character Mr. P, going through everything, so when you leave today's video, you will know everything about Mr. P and the future ahead. But if you do enjoy the video, remember to leave a like and share, and also feel free to subscribe for more. And if you're new, we're kind of doing a little mini series on the channel of some Piggy things that you need to know. So far we've covered the Eye of Insolence. We've also done a video on Bunny, so if you want to check those out, feel free to do so. And if you have any future characters you want me to talk about, feel free to comment them down below. But let's go ahead and jump straight into it. So I think it's very important if we talk about the origin of Mr. P and where Mr. P actually comes from. So Mr. P was originally in Peppa Pig and has moved over to Roblox Piggy. Now originally Peppa Pig was the storyline guideline for Roblox Piggy. Although that is not the case anymore, Mr. P was added for that very reason, as it was in Peppa Pig. Now our very first awareness of Mr. P and this character was actually in Piggy Book 1, Chapter 4, The Forest, where we hear his voice on the walkie-talkie before going into the school. Now we also do get our very first reveal of Mr. P down below in the end of the school in the sewers. Now he will also change from when we see him down below in the sewers for the very first time until the last time we see him in Chapter 12. Now, who is Mr. P? I think this is very important to understand who the character is, what they are, what their intentions are, so you can kind of understand where they might be going and where they will be coming back in the series. So Mr. P is actually a successful billionaire based in the city of Lucella. If you did not know, yes, the city of Lucella is based off of the LPD, so we know that, for example, the alleys possibly takes place in the Lucella city. Why? Because the LPD could stand for Lucella Police Department. So Mr. P is a successful billionaire. He is also our very first antagonist in the game, so he's the first person that we say, okay, this is the person that we're going up against, this is the villain. Now Mr. P also appears to be the husband or the partner of Mrs. P, who is also still currently missing at this point in time of watching this video, but with hopes that Mrs. P will possibly return later in the future and we will get more information on that. Now it is suggested that Mr. P has partners such as Bunny and Sheepy, and I believe even Barry to an extent, but we do know for a fact that Bunny and Mr. P were definitely friends and partners. We learned that in the early chapters in school, and then also in the very end of Chapter 12, we can see them together in a picture. So Mr. P appears to be giving out potions to people, and these people actually end up turning infected. So it's safe to say that if Mr. P gives you a potion, you were next to be infected. Now whether or not he was doing this on purpose and was just purely evil, we do understand that he was doing everything he could in his power to save one person who was sick, and that was Mrs. P. Now let's talk about the dramatic change with Mr. P. Now I'm not talking about Mr. P being purple, I'm talking about Cyborg Mr. P. So half of Mr. P's body is a cyborg. He also has a mechanical weapon, and it looks like Mr. P has lost some of his mind. He even thinks that we are dead. He goes to say that you two are dead, my friends are haunting me. Basically, he let down the people that were really close to him, and they are there to haunt him, which I have some theories about this too, which I'm going to share with you quite soon. And we do know the fact that we do battle him in Chapter 12. He is also someone that we go up against. Now, the fact that he mentioned that you two are dead, the people I let down are here to haunt me, I also just thought about this. The two people that we also see in the end of Chapter 12 or during Chapter 12, two people that show up as ghosts that are possibly dead, that are semi-haunting Mr. P, is Bunny and Doggy. So just as a thought, that Bunny and Doggy could be the two people that Mr. P was talking about, but just getting us confused with it, which would totally make sense on why Bunny and Doggy were appearing as ghosts in Chapter 12 Plant. Now, Mr. P was the first character that we actually saw as a half cyborg. Of course, we had Roby, but that was a full robot. But we do know now that something has happened to Mr. P, or someone has done something to Mr. P and made Mr. P this way. Now, we do have more multiple characters like this, like cyborg-wise, like Ray's, for an example. So we'll get more into that at a later point. But this all ties into more of the backstory with Mr. P, as we can tie in some relations to the Piggy family and the true ending. Now, in order to get the true ending, which revealed a lot on Mr. P, and we finally got a lot of information that we did not know on Mr. P, whether Mr. P was good or evil. So we'll briefly go over the true ending about Mr. P, and Mr. P tells us the story of pretty much how his story went. Now, we don't know if Mr. P is lying at all, but basically Mr. P was developing a cure for the sickness of his wife, Mrs. P. Now, Mr. P also put all of his time and money into saving her and rushed to the doctors to test the supposed cure. The doctors were telling him that the cure was unstable, but he did not listen and he needed volunteers. And that's when it came to the Piggy family, and George was not there. So George was not there during the Piggy family, which also ties in why George's family was infected, but not George. Now, we do know that the results were significant. They became stronger. He was overjoyed, and he gave it to Mrs. P immediately. She was getting better, but there were news from the Piggy family that they started to become hostile, like the infected. Now, he initially thought that the cure had nothing to do with it, but Mrs. P also became aggressive, and the last time he saw her, she had red eyes. So in the end of this, Mr. P realizes how selfish he was and rushful he was in trying to do this. And yeah, turns out that he caused more damage than good, giving out rushed potions to save Mrs. P. Now, before we get any further, I do want to go over all the notes. I think it's important to cover the notes that were written by Mr. P throughout Piggy. So let's go ahead and start this out with ones that were in the Metro, where it says, "She's really sick. I need to help her any way I can." And that's from Mr. P. So this does kind of tie into maybe he is not lying about the true ending. We also have notes that says maybe the doctor can make something, a cure. I'll give anything. I just need to have her feel better and things like that. We also did get a note in the outpost which said, "I look for her in the forest. She's gone, just as Bunny is," because unfortunately, and the sad story is that Mr. P gave his partner Bunny a potion and Bunny possibly died. We have another note which says, "I don't understand. I've only made 7 potions. Why is everyone turning just like them?" That was by Mrs. P. Also one that says, "I failed everyone. Now I am a soulless body, wandering without purpose, fighting without reason." So Mr. P is pretty broken at this point when it comes to chapter 12. And we know that whenever we finish the chapter, Mr. P stays behind and either fights off, or you stay behind and you become infected too. Now, although many of you may believe that Mr. P got what he deserved in the end, and that's not to say that Mr. P is dead, I do think that Mr. P is alive. Do you think Mr. P is good or evil? I will leave that up to you. In my personal opinion, I do think Mr. P is good, and we will see him return in Piggy Book 2, especially in his new form. So I would really love to see that happen. And there is also a lot of relation that TSP knows about Mr. P, and I'm pretty sure that Mr. P knows about TSP. So my theory is that Mr. P is somewhere up north, which I think we will find out in later moments in Piggy Book 2. So yeah, that is pretty much it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Again, if there's any more things you would like for me to cover on specific things or characters, feel free to comment them down below. I really enjoy doing these type of videos. But thank you all so much. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like and share it. Also, feel free to subscribe for more. And if you're new, and if you want to show your further support to me, you can always use star code BIGB2 when purchasing Robux or Premium. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!